Your success has not benefited you. You've not grown as a result of being successful. You've lost your bite. You're not hungry anymore. Your success is damaging you. No excuses, only adjustments. No excuses. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear good excuses, good reasons, what happened, why you couldn't do it. I don't want to hear it. Everybody got an excuse. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear anything about this happening. The weather wasn't right, and get the finances, and this didn't come through when it was supposed to. Well, that person did. No. I'm challenging you. If you listen to me, if you ain't brave enough to challenge yourself, if you ain't courageous enough to challenge yourself, I'm challenging you. I'm challenging you to get from where you are. I'm challenging you to stop settling. I'm challenging you. I'm challenging you.
The ex-house people out and death.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I'm Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. Welcome, guys. And we have a special guest. This is the third time, I think, he has been on our show. We are super blessed to have Mike Pombeiro. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. And thanks for having me once again. I thought you guys would be sick of me by now.
Heck no.
No, not at all. We are excited, man. We're excited to have you on and talk about this year and just your perspective on what's going on in the martial arts world, the fighting world, who to look for. And then, of course, we got to share some good old stories, because there's always more that I'm sure you haven't shared before. So before we get into that, we have lots going on that we are sponsored by. So if you don't know, we are sponsored by the Virtual Fight Tour. They were our first sponsor, and our next event they have is in February, Ladies Night, and our own Regina Thompson is a part of that, setting that up, getting the female fights together, the fighters, the commentators, the judges. It's going to be a great show. So really excited to see that. That is coming up February 26th.
It's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, big time. So really cool to see. I know that she's reached out to a lot of people from the past to be judges, to be a part of it. So really cool to see that. I know she's trying to get like fighters like Danielle Dixon, who has not been out in a long time out there, to judge and be a part of it. So pretty cool. So that's coming up. But this weekend we got the Arctic Challenge, and it is put on by Chris Gorham and his martial arts school, his whole family that has that there. So we will be live streaming that this Saturday, starting most likely at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Or sorry, what time is that actually?
Eastern time.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Eastern
Eastern time. All right. And so we're going to be doing the forms, the fighting, everything for the black belts on the Saturday. So it's going to be exciting. That's what's going on this weekend. And then we have our next one, February 5th, is the Censor Sports Strike League Grand Prix, which is in Texas, put on by Chad Cannon and Carmichael Simon. And they have 8 to 9 fighters of the best Texas fighters going right now. So
a lot of exciting stuff.
We got Willie Hicks in there. We got Vito. We got Charlie Davison. We got so many great fighters. Peter Chartuni, all these guys that are out there. And what's cool is that it's going to be the first time that we see what Censor Sports is about on a big playing field. So they will be taking kind of what Taekwondo does and putting it into what we do, but with but to another level. Okay. So they have been working with some of the Taekwondo tournaments and stuff as well recently. So they have a lot of big things in the future for that. So I'm excited to see how this looks. So like when you do a blitz, you hit someone in the head, their helmet will light up and it will show that it's a point. So really excited, something to look forward to. So I hope everyone checks that out when we have that coming on.
Yeah, that should be exciting. I'm excited for it because of exactly what you mentioned. Or there's going to be it's the thing that we've talked about, for years, if not decades. It's going to be a whole sensor thing, just like Taekwondo is doing. But I think we're curious about is how is this really going to work? How
Right.
is this going to look? And
Right.
there's so much intrigue with that because like I mean I don't want to speculate too much. I want to see the thing play out. But it's not just the sensor part of that. It's the format in which the tournament is run
Right.
because it's run in a Grand Prix. So we're going to have Chad Cannon and Carmichael Simon on next week. We're going to talk a little bit more about that and how that format's going to run. But it's a Grand Prix. So a Grand Prix is basically it's a tournament. It's invitation
Yep.
only, but it's 3 rounds per match. So that's exciting. What I don't know is it going to
best
be
out of 3. Best out
best
of 3.
out of 3. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be total points because if I win a round by 2, the other guy wins a round by 8, and then I win a round by 1, even though for total points, I would have lost. I won 2 out of the 3 matches. I would advance. So it's interesting. And what I'm curious is that if that takes off and people really like that format, if we go to things like that for team fights as well, because that's something that we've done. Mike, you've fought in all sorts of different formats before. I'm assuming you fought with that type of format before where it's total wins versus total points, right? Oh, we lost him for a minute. He came back. He
We
was
lost
in
him a
and
second.
out.
Then yep.
Yeah. Jeff, have you ever fought in that format before?
Where it's say that again. Where
Where
it's
it's
like
total wins, not total points?
I've never done it. Have you? Or
I
in
have.
WKC? Yeah.
Yeah, I have. So I kind of like the total wins
Okay.
because it gives when you're talking total points, you can completely blow someone out of the water because of the matchup, but you get a guy who just always kind of wins his match by 1 or 2, and they end up becoming more valuable. Mike, I know you're back. I'm assuming you fought in that type of format before where it's total wins versus total points. Have you done that before?
Total wins, points. You talking about like teams or something where like the most
I
people
think
that
that's
win,
the
or
one where it's
Yeah.
where we would have done that the most.
That's the only thing I can think of is like, where sometimes they would switch it up, like whoever wins the most matches, and if you had
Exactly.
5 people, and if you win 3 matches, it's over.
Right.
I don't like it because then a couple people don't get to fight, but then I like it
I
because if
like
you
that.
have
Yeah.
a big event like the Irish Open, then it kind of helps speed things along per se.
Yeah,
Right.
I almost think it makes it more fair.
See, I don't think so. It's not one of my favorites. I don't know. It's just not for me because I've seen. I don't know. It's weird to me because I've watched some. Let's see, at maybe the past WKC where it was just blowout after blowout after blowout, and it wasn't really any close fights, but it was still a 3-2 type, type format, or it ended up being that, not in this particular one. But so to me, I don't necessarily like that as much.
Really?
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's just interesting to it's a different thing, but I like
I'll
the
mention.
total points.
Yeah, I'll mention this. It depends on who you have. Like if you got someone like Raymond, someone that can run up a lot of points, it'd be beneficial to have overall points. You know what I mean? Or people that can run up points. If you have people that are really defensive and like to keep, fights close, then you might want to go for wins. So I think it would depend on strategy. I think that's the one thing that you'd have to think about. Strategy would have to be, added into that depending on what the circumstances were. What the end, what you are trying to accomplish as an end result.
Yeah, and I think the first time I fought in that format was the Irish Open, and we were fighting the Irish team. And we had a guy in our squad who was relatively new to that limelight of fighting. Like he wasn't really used to that stage. And so when Robbie McMenemy went up, we're like, all right, Robbie McMenemy could likely win his match even if we have our best fighter up there. So let's sacrifice the lamb, put him out there, and now we still keep our top fighters because that guy, we took our lower
Right.
fighter
We
against
took
their
the-
best
yeah.
fighter. They were only going to get that one win anyway, and that really helped us. So it's really personal preference, but I'm really interested to see how it works out anyway. So
Yeah.
that we'll hear a little bit more about next week.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I like the. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I like the
No.
fact that there's guys that used to be involved in competing, trying new things. You know, Jesse Ray being one of them with Virtual Fight Tour. Of course, Alex Reyes with Pro Point. Now you got these guys coming out. You have Kevin Walker doing an all fighting event. I think it's real cool. Then you had also Jack Felton that just had a pretty big, you know, successful tournament here in SoCal, which we haven't had in a while. It's cool to see all these guys getting involved and getting out there and trying new things and trying to see if they can revamp or respark it. You know what I mean? I like it.
Yeah, definitely really cool. Definitely really cool.
Were you at that?
Go
Were
ahead.
you at Jack's tournament?
I was.
How did it feel? What was it like?
It was a sprinkle of a little bit of everybody. There was a lot of big names there. I mean, you saw who was reffing. It was like me, Raymond, Jamie Matthews, Jose Pacheco. I mean, you had a whole bunch of like,
it was awesome.
You know, great refs. I think everything ran smooth. Chris Walker was there too. You know, he had great competitors. He had a pretty good event for a first time. It ran pretty smooth. I didn't hear a lot of complaints. So, I mean, for a first time tournament, he did pretty well, and hopefully it'll grow into something bigger, you know, and better.
I hope so as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely was excited to finally see him taking that promoter, you know, taking that promoter hat for a while. So I think, I always thought it was something that he should or could do, you know, so.
Plus, I don't know anybody who doesn't like Jack Felton.
Right.
No, that's the other thing. You know, Jack, I mean, I don't know many people that speak bad about Little Jack. I want to be specific. Little Jack, you know, he doesn't ruffle any feathers. He's really calm, cool, collected. And when you need something, he's always there for you. Right. So that's what I kind of got to feel. I mean, I got to feel like people were there for Jack. Like they felt like, you know what? This guy's always done stuff for me. He's always been loyal. He's always been a great guy. And that's what I felt like. I felt like a lot of people were like, you know what? They wanted to show their appreciation. So they came down or they brought their students down. And that's what it felt like. It was it was like a big family. You know what I mean? I liked the environment. It was real cool. So
awesome.
Yeah, that's important. And for those that when you mentioned, you know, Little Jack, nobody has anything bad to say about Little Jack. For those who don't know, Big Jack makes me look like an introvert.
He's been quiet though lately. I haven't seen him around unless I'm blocked. But I haven't seen him around lately. But I just wanted to, you know, be specific because I mean you would think like, you know, they're like oil and water.
Two totally different personalities.
But Little Jack is, you know, he doesn't burn any bridges. He's so mellow and real cool and so, you know.
I like Big Jack too, but
Big Jack, I can't say nothing bad about Big Jack. If you're in this corner and you're on the side, he's cool to you. But if not, you know, you don't want to deal with that guy.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. So Mike, what have you been up to lately? How's your year started off?
You know, man, I'm not gonna lie. I've been a lot more family life with this whole COVID thing, kind of off and on and off and on. You know, and that's I apologize for keep getting kicked off. I keep getting phone calls from the school because at school they had an outbreak in my kid's class. Somebody ended up having COVID. My kid said it was like a murder mystery. He ended up starting off with 24 kids, and every time they'd come in, kids would be going down. They'd be picking off 2 and 3 because they all had to get tested. And at the end of the day, it was 7 kids. So then they had to call back and they had to cancel his class, not school, his class specifically because of the outbreak. And now he's got to stay home for a week. So we've been dealing with that. And then at work, we had an outbreak there. So everybody had to get tested and we got a few people, you know, missing. So I don't know. It's weird. And then I went to Florida just a week or 2 ago. And I don't even know if they know that there's such a thing as COVID.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I'm just saying, I walked around and I was like wearing a mask, and I felt like I didn't belong there. Like somebody's like, this guy is not from around here. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I didn't know what to expect because living in California, it's a trip over here too. Because I remember a time it was like you go to L.A. and L.A. you got to wear masks. You go to Orange County, you don't wear masks. I live on the county line of L.A. and Orange County, so I mean, 5-minute drive, and I forget my mask, and I'm like, oh man, I'm still in L.A. County. I need to go back home. I need to go get my mask. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
and same thing with tournaments. Talking about
Right.
tournaments, you see
Right.
these events, and it's like you see all these great competitors, but I haven't seen where all of them have really all showed up to one event. It just seems like there's
Not yet.
Yeah. Froze on us again.
I mean, all right,
Yeah, but showing up to
no
one
problem.
event, I think you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
We haven't seen
From event to event. Yeah, from event to event, things are changing, and I don't know what to expect. I don't know who's going to be there. With Chicago, you got the tournament coming up, AKAs. You got the weather to worry about.
Mhm.
I don't know how
Well, that's
things are up
true.
there, but I hear Canada. is having a tough time going anywhere. Europe, I
Yep.
haven't been seeing anything about events over there.
A lot of them
And
been
I'm,
shut down.
I'm
Yeah.
so
They
you
they
know
just canceled about 4 of them. They just canceled about 4 of the top European events. What I'm hearing though is that the UK and everything is all right though, from what I heard, but that the other ones are surrounding areas, a lot of them have been canceled. Or I
yeah.
think what was one of Athens, I think was postponed, so they're going to try to have it still, but
I hope that one
um,
goes. That's usually a big event.
yeah. So I'm
The
not
Athens
sure.
Challenge.
I'm like everybody else. I'm over it, but I'm also trying to do my due diligence to be safe, avoid. I mean, I went to a Lake game the other day, but I mean, we wore masks. My wife even wore a double mask, and uh, I'm not gonna lie, it was like Florida over there. I went into Staples Center. You're supposed to wear a mask. You get in, and then most people have drinks or food, and most
This
people
is
have
off.
they had their masks off the
Yeah.
whole time, and
Oh, yeah.
there wasn't an empty seat in there. But
Was it a good game?
it,
Did the Lake Show
it,
win?
yeah, they did win. They were on a little bit of a roll where they won 3-4 in a row. We happened to go
Nice.
during a good time, and nobody was missing due to COVID. So yeah, I mean, we had a good time. So I've been just trying to, like everybody else, survive,
Yeah.
get through this. I almost feel like I've lost touch with people. I do stay on the phone, but it's not like before where you get to see people at these events all at one time.
Yep.
It's hard to make 20, 30 phone calls in a weekend. But, at these events, you can run into 30, 40, 50 of your friends real quick and just catch up and
Right.
do all that. So, I mean,
Exactly.
but I mean, I still train. I still try to, I still live the martial arts lifestyle. I just haven't been going to competitions. I enjoy watching you guys. CTE, you guys keep me posted and updated with events. So,
Awesome.
what
Awesome.
else do I need, man?
People should know though, do not tune into this show purely for information. This is entertainment purposes, like only, right? If you're looking for factual information, that might happen by just happenstance, right? This is entertainment.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw me in Florida too. Just
Yeah.
recently, they posted up a picture. Man, there was like
Yeah.
What a
80,
squad 80
of
there was
people to
like
train with.
80, 90 people. I mean,
That was awesome.
it was ridiculous. Not only the amount of people, but the amount of good people. And that's the one thing I noticed that right now I think there's a couple hotbeds. One of them is definitely Florida. Florida's kicking butt. They got a lot of great competitors. They got great events.
Yeah.
And another one that's been around for a while and that's still around is New York. And I think, a lot of it has to do with both Jesse Ray, Troy Binns, and, of course, Jody as well being over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those
guys
two,
are killing it.
yeah, those two places right now, they're pretty good hotbeds. I mean, of course, I don't want to take any limelight away from Straight Up and their guys up there, but when you're talking about numbers and how, and deep and a lot of great competitors right now, I think New York and Florida's kicking butt, and they got a lot of great people. And I haven't talked about Europe and Canada because I haven't seen
Right.
There's
them
not
in
there's
a
not
while,
much to
so.
talk about yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we had Waco World Championships, and then after that, we weren't really able to have anything else. It kind of shut down again. So
Yeah, and
it
I
was
was curious
unfortunate.
to see how they were going to look. And man, help me out. Who's the tall guy that beat Bailey?
Yeah,
Elijah.
Elijah. Yeah.
I mean,
Fastest man on the planet.
I've sparred with that guy. He is pretty fast. I never sparred with Bailey, but that kid is so quick off the line. I was impressed. A couple times I even laughed. I'm thinking, okay, I know what he's gonna do, and I'm sure a lot of people have said that to me. I know what he's gonna do, and I swear I was like, I'm gonna get him this time. And before you know it, he's like right here already, and I haven't even taken off yet. He is amazingly long, quick, and tactical. And he did a great job for not being active. He just shows, he's obviously he's staying in shape. His timing's impeccable. Because I mean, he didn't just beat Bailey. I believe he 10-point him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He 10-pointed everyone. Yeah. In the whole event.
Yeah, amazing. So I just hope that things can get to a place where we can get back to having these big events and having everybody show up again. I mean, I liked where things were going, and it kind of, virtual fight tour. We had some good things come out of it. I mean, I'm happy to see that's still going.
Yeah.
He's pressing forward, and I hope and wishing him continued success. I know there's a couple other people that have tried to do the same thing, and it hasn't happened. But now we got some other guys trying some new things, and I wish them all the luck. I'm hoping this thing kicks off. We get back.
I think most of the tournaments in here are going to happen. It's just everybody's going to have different restrictions, So I know that there was a big, a new mandate that was passed down like recently in the Chicago area or whatever, and so that caught a lot of people's eyes and stuff. Like, oh man, what's going on? But mostly it just affects like restaurants and stuff as far as that goes. But
it's weird out here. It really is, because it's in Cook County, which is where Schaumburg is in Cook County, Chicago's in Cook County. So it really depends. But if you go over another county, you go to DuPage County, you go to Cage County, or Kane County, and it's totally different. But each business can decide that they want to do or not do kind of whatever they want. But you go a town over, and like you're in handcuffs, right? Because you can't do the same thing. So I don't know. I thought it was an interesting move. I thought it was eventual that AKA was going to have to move out of Chicago unless they like tripled their attendance, and they're already a big tournament. But you had to deal with Chicago Union when you have the tournament there. I mean, it is a beautiful venue. It's an amazing experience there because everything's right there. You're right on Michigan Avenue. It's fantastic. But I mean, they're not making the same as what you can, somewhere else. So I think it was eventual to come out, to maybe the Schaumburg Convention Center, but they're still in Cook County. So I don't know how much different it can be. But I went to AKs before they were in Chicago, and then in the years past, when they were in Chicago, before they were now, it's really weird. There's a big difference. When you're in the city, people want to go when it's in the city. Right. So you got to have something around. Schaumburg's definitely got tons of stuff around. So, but it's in Cook County. So you got to decide. It all depends. You got to be creative, which is also kind of interesting because restrictions or not, pandemic or not, you should get creative with any tournament you go to anyway. If you're just depending on the tournament and the food around there, it could be, you can be taken hostage by the tournament, right? You got to get creative as for what you want for your experience and your entertainment.
But it's real tough, I think. I was gonna say, but it must be real tough right now to be a promoter, to try to schedule a tournament in advance, not knowing what things are going to be in that time frame.
Exactly. Everything continues to change. So
exactly. So I mean, I feel for all those people that are trying to put on these events with the hopes that nothing comes up, and like a lot of these businesses, they end up just
Just
not going out
almost.
of business, but putting a lot of investment into it, and not being able to get anything in return,
Yeah,
So
or completely having to change what their business looks like. You know what I mean? Like there's so many that have had to completely flip, what it is, So
I mean, let's look at the positive though. The one thing I do see is that with lack of events, I've seen a lot more dialogue. I've seen a
mhm,
lot, and with shows
huge.
like yours,
Right.
Jeremy Roquet, I'd have to give him 5 stars for leading. He's always got some funny comments he's putting out there. Love
Yeah,
that guy. He's always got some
definitely.
funny questions. But I mean, it's great because you see all this dialogue. You see all these people talking about what they like, what they don't like, and hopefully tournaments are seeing this and they're trying to
And
change.
listening. Yeah,
Yeah, because I mean,
definitely.
ultimately that's what it's going to come down to. Because I mean, another thing I was seeing too was before the pandemic was saturation. There was
Mhm.
so many events too
Right.
at one time where
Exactly.
people were kind of trying to pick and choose about which event to go to. It makes it real difficult. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
You hit on something there because I think you're right. I think there was probably like a consensus, like 4 big tournaments throughout the year, and then the rest, like if your division, if everybody showed up, let's say if all the names showed up, you had 20 guys or 20 competitors in that division, right? There might be 4 events where you'd have 18 of those 20 there, but then on the rest of them, you'd have 6, but then on the next one, you'd have 11,
3.
and
Yeah.
then they would be different each
Right.
time. So, you know,
me too.
when you talk about the big ones, you mention names like, well, I'll say, AKA, just because for the last number of years, that's been like the
One of the
tournament to go to. So you get that, you got the Irish Open, you got the US Open, you get the Battle, you get the Diamonds, right? So let's maybe say 5, right? So you got 5 big tournaments that people are like, all right, for the most part, people are going to make those events. And then the rest of them, who knows, right?
right.
Right? You know that people are going to be there. You know that names are going to be there, but you're not all of them. All right. But I love this time of year. This time of year, it's like the start of the football season.
Yeah.
Everybody's team thinks
Oh
they got
man.
a shot to win the division
Right.
and they got a shot to make it in the playoffs. Everybody's like, this is our year. This is our year because for the first 2-3 events or months even, you're like, I can still do this. Whether it doesn't matter how you fared in those first couple of events, you still feel like this is it. About May comes around and reality starts to set in. Like, where are you really? Right. So I love this time of year for that. Mike, when you think about this time of year in competitions, maybe even just training, like what comes to mind for you around the beginning of the year?
That's the one thing. It was compete for me at the time. Yeah, back when I was going, I think compete was the first tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was very important to start off and just like take it all and just make a statement and let
Yeah.
people know you were there. I thought that was always a big deal. I always,
Yeah.
use
And
that
it was big.
time.
It was big
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah, I used
You know what I
that
mean?
time where it was like, the holidays to just kind of like let everybody get fat while I just said, you know what, I'm just going to stay focused and just come out strong and like let everybody else have to play catch up. Not that that's what people were doing, but in my mind, that's what I was just thinking. I was just thinking, you know what, I'm not going to let anybody get ahead. I'm going to do the exact opposite and just
Right.
bum rush. And I remember that's what I think I did. Like I think 5 years in a row, I came out, did compete, and then Mile High we used to be after that until they stopped
Yep.
doing that tournament. And I think I,
Then
same thing. It
later
was
on,
just kind of
Charlie
get
is what ended up being right after that.
yeah, and
Yep.
then Ocean State. So I mean, it was just
Yep.
like, but I remember compete was usually the first one, and I always said, come out like wildfire, just make a statement,
Yeah.
be the guy that everybody wants to beat. And I want to ask you guys a question because a tournament I haven't been to in a while, but I've been hearing a lot of, and I've seen some great fights from Battle of Atlanta. I remember
Yep.
Battle of Atlanta was like my last really good. I don't want to say my last really good year, but when I was doing really big things, I remember the last year they had it at the Dome and how
Hmm.
big that event used to
Yeah.
be.
Right.
I remember it becoming a smaller tournament and still having great fights,
Right.
but it seems like as of late, I don't know if it's new people that are promoting
think there's a little bit of that. So I
Can you
think,
guys hear me?
yeah,
Yeah.
we got you
Hello?
100%. I think you're on. I think I'm going to keep going on that, and then Mike will come back in. So I think there is a little bit that there is new promotion and there's new, I'll just call it tournament, management, whoever's managing the tournament. Michael was just saying, I think there is something to do with it being new promotion that has something to do with it. But I think the other thing is that the Battle of Atlanta now, I'll say within the last like 7 years, maybe 8. All right. Actually, maybe a little bit more. But anyway, if you remember back in the late 90s and even a little bit after that in the early 2000s, one of like the fighters tournament was the Bluegrass Nationals, right? It's at the same time of year and it has the same feel. It has the same feel of the like, all right, you might not make it to 3 other tournaments a year, but the Battle of Atlanta is where all the fighters go, right? And it's the truth. It's in early June or mid-June, and all the fighters just go. So it's a big culture, right? That's kind of the culture that they were able to create and gather is like, all right, this is a big deal. And I think some of their I don't want to say it, like their promotion of the way they did their Friday night fights, they make it a big deal, right?
That was good. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the way they were able to
The
gather
other
that.
thing though too, like you got to look at where the battle went from, right? And what Mike's talking about. I mean, I was there when there was 40 people in my division, and it's like in the dome, in the Georgia dome, and it's just crazy. And
never went to it in the dome.
And it was awesome. And it was always, they had a set time of the year. It was actually around April when it was.
Yep.
And
which
then,
is a great time for tournaments.
But then when they switched and there was 2 battles in 1 year, they went through this phase of like not knowing when to run their tournament, and they kept switching days, and that hurt them, I really think. And that is what actually kind of started their downhill a little bit. And of course, some other things along the way, but when they had multiple events, they keep switching this and that. And at first, putting them, I think 2 weeks before US Open didn't help them, but now
it's a benefit.
It's benefited them, So it's really interesting how that's worked. And they're at a nice, like a big venue now to where they can have it works out, and they're getting the best fighters and all the teams are coming for this event. So,
yeah,
Hey,
I think they were having
about
identity issues towards the last few years of Joe Corley's tenure of running that tournament. But now they know who they are.
Yeah, and I know Greg's one of the main guys. I know it's not only him, but he's always he's always helped out, and he's always been an advocate for fighters. I mean, he was always there with Brian. I remember when I was teaming up with Brian, he loved all the fighters. He loved fighting. So, I mean, he's definitely a great guy to have there. Now, also talking about, you guys talked about time of year. I've heard so many people talk about it. Why is AKA at the worst time of the year? Anybody?
Well, I'll tell you. So
cheap flights, I'll tell you that.
It is. You're right. If you're going to have a tournament in Chicago, January is not that time, right? Because while there are colder places temperature-wise, there's nothing quite like
the wind chill, right?
Freezing temperature plus the wind in Chicago.
They've battled weather for the last few years, am I right? Besides COVID, but I mean, they've battled weather. I mean,
but
I'm always hearing about people missing flights or not being able to leave or something. It's like,
yeah. So I get it. I get why they got to have it there. All right. I mean, I suppose they could try whatever they want to try, but if you remember, AKA like John Sharkey's group, they bought Bluegrass Nationals. And so they were, I think for like 2 years, they ran the Bluegrass Nationals as the Bluegrass Nationals. Yeah. And then they switched it to like the Bluegrass National Warrior Cup, right? Because they didn't want to do the Warrior Cup and the Bluegrass Nationals. So then he wanted to buy the Bluegrass Nationals also in part so he could get the banquet, right? You wanted the banquet. And that's what it was. If you won, you were in the top whatever in your division,
for
the previous year, it does make sense to have the banquet at the beginning of the year. All right. So
Yeah.
I feel like that they got right. Being in
But-
Chicago in January, maybe not so good.
I'm
But
just
again,
saying,
I'm
Just
telling you, it's
saying.
been real. It's some of the cheapest flights I can find ever for a tournament, or for a big tournament, though.
But have
I'll tell
you
you
missed
that.
any? Have you missed any flights going to Chicago, going or coming?
I haven't been, just like I said, I haven't been to this tournament in 20 years, since
Because I've
2001.
heard,
So,
I'm always hearing
yeah.
or seeing people
Right.
post
But
about
see,
missing
I used to have to go
flights
to Buffalo on Christmas.
lying, though.
So, I used to have to go to Buffalo on Christmas. So, I mean, but I never missed my flight then either. So I don't know. But
So I'm hearing about all these new teams. You guys are inside scoop. You guys know of any of these, these trade deals or people jumping? Or are we all waiting for AKA to talk about it?
I feel like people are waiting. But yeah, go ahead.
People are waiting, but it's like
Some people know.
I came out with a hot-ish topic last week, and I said, hey, who's in need of a change of scenery? Because sometimes you can be a great fighter. You can be great in your division, even forms, right? And for some reason, you're just not vibing with that group, right? Like it's not going to work, right? So maybe the group, they all speak Spanish, and you're the only guy on that team that don't speak Spanish, and there's a number of them. Maybe it's like, well, I just need to be with some guys that speak my literal language, right? So that could be it. Maybe you just really you don't get the culture of that team, and you just don't like it, and you're like, I don't like you guys, right?
Yeah.
I can't get this. I need a new change of scenery, right? What I think would be interesting, you mentioned it. What if you literally traded? Because this is not like actual sports, right? So it's not like, oh, there's a free agent. In reality, everyone in sport karate is a free agent. We can kind of do whatever the heck we feel, right? So people kept
Not
talking
everybody
about,
does, but yeah.
Right. But if you were to say like, hey, in basketball, if everyone was a free agent, right? Everyone would go after guys like Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, LeBron James, all of those, right? But you can't do that because they're literally signed to contracts where they're not available to do that, right? And then there's tampering laws, right? But what if you could just do that? Wow, that would be a lot of excitement if guys were just switching all the time. Sometimes guys don't switch when I feel like they should. So I brought up one of the names I brought up. I thought Brian Rodriguez needs to change the scenery because there was a time where he was the middleweight winning a heavyweight overall, right? And we really haven't seen that at all, right? Not in the last few years. We haven't seen the middleweight winner win a heavyweight overall. For the lightweight side, we've seen lightweight overall winners win some lightweights or super lightweights win the lightweight overall. We've seen welterweights or light welterweights win the lightweight overall. So I thought, hey, that guy needs to change the scenery. But I don't know. I think there's a number of them that could or should happen. What do you think, Mike?
I'm all about loyalty. So, I mean, if you're with a team and you got with that team, there had to be a reason. So, I mean, if you're leaving the team, then I feel like it was kind of like a multi, like you were using them, they were using you at the time. But, I mean, if you're really good, I mean, you probably have a plethora of teams trying to get to you. You probably aren't, going to be stuck with one team and having to build your way up. You know what I mean? But I kind of get it too, that if you're on a small team and that team isn't able to give you what another team can, and you're kind of working your way up the ranks and you've kind of earned your place, you should be able to kind of move up. You know what I mean? But for the most part, I think really it comes down to loyalty. That's why, Bailey and all those guys, I think that's why they've done so good too. I think that's another thing too. Like, let's talk about basketball because you're a basketball fan. I'm a basketball fan. Penny Hardaway, Shaq, they were doing so great. Orlando went all the way to the finals. Okay, they got swept, but I mean, who knows what would have happened if they would have rode a couple more years out, got a little bit stronger. Same thing with OKC with their top three. it would have been nice to see just a few
That
more
would have been
years.
amazing.
What would have happened? And I think the same thing with some of these other teams. I think that the longer they stay, the tighter that camaraderie is, and I think the better the team will be. And I think all this jumping stuff, I'm not really into it, and that's why,
Right.
when I was with a team, I really didn't jump. I mean, even when I came out, I don't think I was really sponsored by any or many other people. But there's a lot of great talent out there, I tell you. And when I was in Florida, you said Brian Rodriguez. I got to spar with him. He's really quick, fast. I got to spar with Yoskar, which I couldn't wait to spar with because he's been the hot thing over there for 30 plus.
Yeah.
Who else is Jeremy Roquet? Man, that guy. He needs to go
Got
back
a
out.
leg, right?
He
He
needs to go
does,
back
man.
out there. Not just a leg. He's just
He-
a good competitor.
He
And
is,
from
he is.
watching and refereeing, I think he's also created this mind where his mind works a lot faster than people know because again he's been around it and I think his mind's always doing these calculations or doing things or just thinking of weird things. So he's a good competitor. I like to see him out there. And what was the other guy's name? The one that's dating Hope. What's that guy's name?
Christian.
Man, out of all
Yeah.
of them,
Christian
he was
Rivas.
the one he was the one that impressed me the most. He
All right.
Why
actually,
is that?
Awesome.
when I sparred with everybody, he was just the one that mixed it up the most. His cardio was good. Everybody else was getting tired, and I could kind of stay with everybody and push. He was the only guy that he didn't wilt. He kind of like whatever pace he was going, he kept the same pace no matter how hard I pushed. I was kind of waiting for him to fade. He never faded, and he'd switch it up. If I got aggressive, he would work counters. If I sat back and was kind of trying to catch my wind, he would take advantage. So I was really impressed with him. I mean, I've seen him compete, but it's always a different thing when you get to like actually go in there and spar with people. Now, mind you, we weren't competing, so I don't want to sit there and say like I felt like I did great with everybody and I kicked everybody's butt. And he's no, nothing like that. We all went in there. We all, it was just a training session, so no one was out there trying to kill each other, but no one was trying to look bad either. But out of all the people, I would say he was the one that impressed me the most. I don't know if he's on a team.
Yeah, he's a legend, team legend. Yeah.
Yeah. So those guys, I tell you right now, some of these, and I'll go back to saying it earlier. The only thing about Tony is I don't think a lot of them were white belts with him. I could be wrong. I think a lot of these people might have came from other instructors and then went to Florida and then got over there. But man, he's got such a solid group. I think of Corrali and how he's got a solid group.
It's a very good comparison.
Dude, those guys got a solid group. And same with Jesse. He's got guys, and he's got so much young talent too that hasn't even gotten to the adult division. He's another guy that he's been nurturing these guys since a young age, and I mean he's already got people like Anthony Merricks, James Poor, these older people that are good, D Stacks, but he's also got these guys that are coming up, his son, and a few of these other young cats that, man, I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see what the future holds for them. You know what I mean? Not only for his event that he's putting on, but I mean he's got a solid group. So those guys could have a team themselves. I mean, period.
Exactly. One of the people, and you mentioned Christian, someone who we need to mention because he was getting last year to where he was getting right to that point where he was trying to put himself and wanted to put himself in that top 10, that group, and then he had the incident where he got knocked out and he hasn't been back since then. And so now he's ready. He's been training, feeling good. So I'm excited to see him back out and see what he wants to do, what he's ready to do. So I think that's someone who we definitely need to keep an eye out on. Mike, so we got a couple of things going on. I know that who is it that you feel like could be a star that could take the sport to the next level? You know what I mean? We have right now, of course we have Raymond. Right now, Ross is doing some big things. He even has He's a main feature for a new video game that's coming out called Karate Legends, I believe, and that's coming out I think this weekend or launching. But you know, and that's an awesome thing for anyone in sport karate to see someone like Ross getting out there and doing something like that and being the person that this game and whatever company is launching using Ross. That's amazing, you know. Who do you feel like is that guy or could be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think right off the top of my brain, I'm thinking. Let's think local guys. I would say Bailey Murphy jumps to the top of my head.
Yep.
But you know, the one thing I will say that Bailey needs to bring out more, and maybe I don't see enough of it when he fights, just his personality.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I just wish I'd see more, you know, even Raymond when he doesn't talk, you know, just his little looks and how he looks at people and just like his little antics, you know, I think those types of things you love and hate. And that's what you need, I think, to be that superstar. Not only have talent, but people got to love you or they got to hate you. And that's the thing that Raymond has. When people first see him, Michael Page, they either love the fact that I don't want to say cocky because that comes off wrong. They're so confident in their ability that, you know, they're out there dancing, they're having a good time, and people, you know, might misread it. So you want to watch them. You want to watch them get beat. And then you just like can't believe what they just did, but you got to watch them again. You know what I mean? Because they're like, there's no way that dude did that, and this dude's going to get smashed. And so I really feel like, you know, that's what we need is more people like that. Even like Jerry Fontanez, great competitor. Great. You know, I didn't always love the guy, but I mean,
that's what you're articulating. Not guys who could win the whole tournament and be the guy, but also guys that you either love them or you can't freaking stand. All right.
Yeah, you know,
I don't.
No, I was gonna say that's Jack's problem. Jack is so good and humble, you know, but I think like he doesn't get that other.
Like him.
He doesn't get the other half. I almost feel like if he had his dad there as a manager, you know what I mean? Kind of like kind of like an Undertaker, Paul Heyman, and like he can be the Undertaker where he doesn't say crap, and his dad just talks a whole mess of crap.
Yeah,
dude, it would be perfect.
Wow, that would be hilarious.
But I'm just saying, I just feel like, you know, people have personalities. Let your personality out, man. You know, don't be worried. Yeah. Just like you're in there, you know, you're so confident in your ability. Be confident in you are as a person. You know, you're brought up in martial arts. I'm sure you have great morals, ethics. Just go about your business. Be yourself and be proud of yourself. And I think, again, people are going to hate you or they're going to love you, but you need that. I mean, people are always going to respect your ability, but I think the respect isn't enough. And I've caught myself do that where I've respected people. But if you love somebody or you hate somebody, you want to see someone kick butt or you want to see someone get knocked out. Jake Paul, he's a great example, dude. I don't care if I ask people, you either really like the guy and what he's doing and respect it, or you're absolutely bothered and you can't wait till he gets smashed. And I think that's why he's doing so well for being a new guy in a sport that he's never done. And I think that's what we need. I mean, we need personalities. We need people, you know, not in a rude way, but just have some personality. Go out there.
You know who was great at that, but just didn't last long enough? Thomas Wright was great at that.
You know, it's funny. I see Thomas all the time. I love Thomas, man. I see him all the time with posting his son, and he seems nothing like
I know
what I remember him. Yeah, he was. But that's the thing, you know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes,
and even Trevor, man.
But sometimes that's not you too. And you know what? And I'll say that about me. And you know what? I had that persona. I know a lot of people thought that I was like, you know, short for Richard, you know, rhymes with Rick. I know a lot of people thought I was like that because of my personality. but that was also part of my aura because you know what? I didn't want to get tight with people. I had a job to do. I was out there, and that was just part of me and my personality. And again, I was just being true to myself. But after the competition, that wasn't me. You know what I mean? That was just kind of like my mindset and how I had to be. And that was just all part of like, just how I was. And that's why I was always like that when I was competing. And I feel like, sometimes that can run over. It happens with Raymond. I know a lot of people think he's, a cocky son of a bee. But I mean, you go and talk to him. He's the nicest guy, easiest guy to talk to.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that because I know him. I say that because I've seen people approach him randomly, and he always gives them time, and he never acts like he's better than anybody else.
Right.
And and I think that's what we need. I think we need people more out there. I don't want to say you got to be tactical about it, but just making it where people want to watch you, not just for your ability.
Let's stay right there with what you said when you mentioned, how people thought, you were Richard. My favorite John Paul Mitchell team wasn't Ray, Jotty, and like Preston. It wasn't that. It was you, Brian Ruth, and Pedro, right? That was my favorite JPM team because all three of you guys had the personality exactly like what you had just articulated, right?
Right.
No, Pedro don't talk to Pedro's, and I think I got that from Pedro. He's one of those guys. Even me, when I first met him on the team, he told me, he's like, you know what? He's like, I didn't know about you. I kind of didn't like you. He's like, but I respect you, and we slowly got along. But he's one of those guys. He just doesn't open up to anybody.
Right.
But I mean, his talent's great, and then once you get to know him, he's the nicest guy. I mean, mentioning him, he's having twins. We still connect. We still talk. He hit me up, told me before.
Congratulations, Pedro.
Yeah, he told me before anybody else, or before he posted it out there, and told me not to tell anybody. So I mean, we still, we got a great bond, great relationship. And again, I know a lot of people that respect his talent, but think just like you said, Brian Root's another guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it just. Sometimes you could catch him at the wrong time too, where he might have lost the match, and you go to talk to him, and maybe and he'll just say some stupid stuff. He says a lot of stupid stuff. But no, I agree. We all had an attitude going in there, but that's because we knew what our job was, and that was part of our persona. I mean, and people sometimes don't like it, but they want to watch you get smashed, and that's what it's all about. I mean, like I said, I love it. I mean, I love. You know what? If I was a wrestler, I would be the bad guy.
Yeah.
I hate to say
it. Of course.
I love when people
the
boo.
heels are the best. Yeah.
I love when people boo. I love when people and then I have the ability to smack somebody and look back at that dude, and they can't do a damn thing about it. And it's like, shut up.
Yeah. Right.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah.
So I got a question.
Why,
about that. Let's lean into it on Brian, because I never experienced personally fighting Brian, because I had guys on my team when we fought against him that just were better matches with Brian. I trained with a guy who made me feel like I was training with Brian. But I want to ask a question to you. I trained with BJ Carnahan. It made me feel like, dude, you just hit me like I feel like Brian Ruth would hit me. But whatever. Did you ever have an incident or a time where Brian did something and you're like, dude, we're going to get into a fight now? All right.
What's funny is that me and Brian, and I'm going way back now. Me and Brian, Gary Waugh, his stepdad, Barry. You guys remember Barry?
Yeah.
He used to have he sponsored Dave Douglas and a couple of Anthony DeMar, a couple of these other guys.
Yeah.
So we used to have this
seminar.
We used to have this seminar group where he was putting out, promoting, doing the package deals. He would take a cut, but he was doing all the work and getting us flights and getting all that stuff. So me and Brian did a couple gigs together. I mean, we did
I like
seminar.
how you say it like you're a musician.
Well, I mean, because it's funny. We all stayed together, and I mean, unlike a tournament, we weren't going to compete, so it was a little bit more like chill. and we could kind of like just kind of be normal and not be like, tense and like, worried about having to fight each other or what's going to go down. So we got, we're real chill. We talk about tactics and just different stuff and normal stuff too, but his home life and the studio and all this other stuff. So there was a time in Compete where me and him fought for heavyweight grand, I believe. I mean, this is maybe, I'm going to guess 10, 12 years ago. My wife didn't know Brian. She didn't know our history. So Brian, he's an old school fighter, and he's the type of guy, how people take off pads to kind of stall? Well, there's a couple times where what Brian will do is if you get a clash, he'll try to follow up so that way the last thing they saw was his last punches, and maybe they'll forget the initial clash. So Brian did that to me a couple times, and I had complained to Cecil because when he had said stop, I had stopped and Brian hadn't. And I was trying to defend myself, but I remember Brian's tactic, and it's all cool because I have nothing personal. I know what he was doing, and I know why he was doing it. And I never wanted to say I wanted to kick his ass. I just said I wanted to beat him in the match. So I just kind of try to stick to my game. Anyways, in the end, Brian comes running to me after the match. And he goes to me, he goes, bro, he goes, I just had this chick cussing me out, telling me this, telling me that. And then all of a sudden my wife comes running up. He goes, her. I was like,
Stop.
I was like, babe, hold on. And she was like pissed. She was like pissed that Brian was like teeing off on me, hitting me all late. And, and I didn't take it personal because I knew Brian's tactic. And like I said, it's karate. Keep your hands up. He hits you catch you with a shot. Should have kept moving. Should have kept your hands up. So, and Brian really respected the fact that my wife had my back. He's like, dude, I don't know many people that the wife would come running after the fighter and just like be talking just mad crap to me. He's like, I've never had that happen in my life. And it was a funny moment because, me and my wife, I introduced her to Brian right there, which was kind of an awkward thing because after that whole match, no way they already had met a minute prior. But, I knew Brian's tactic and I knew how he was, so I never took it personal. But yeah, Brian's the type of guy, dude, that's his game plan, and this was always a thing, and I'll mention people's names. Preston was one of them. How many times did people fight Preston? What were they told to do? They would tell to rock Preston because he would shut down.
Oh yeah,
I remember, and I used to fight teams. Yep. See, absolutely.
Yeah, that was the MO on him.
I remember fighting teams with them all the time, and I always remind them, people are going to try to take your head off. Don't take it personal. They just think you're going to shut down, and you got to turn up. And, I hate to say it, sometimes it's just part of a game plan, and it's nothing personal. And I never took nothing personal with Brian trying to hit me late. But, yeah, that son of a gun will try to put a hole in you if he can. And, I mean, he's not the only one. John Payton, you guys might have not remember John Payton.
Oh, yeah.
John Payton one year, man, I went to Pedro for a Christmas party. And John's like, we're going to get a workout. Why don't you come by after? And I made the mistake of friggin' eating at Pedro's and going to JP's after. And we're just sitting there bouncing. And I don't know if it's an East Coast thing, but JP, me and him are bouncing around. We're going at it. And JP's fighting me like it's a tournament. And he hits me with this friggin' body punch that just like knocks the wind out of me. I'm almost about to heave. And, I walked off to the side, came back, and he's like, you all good? And he's come back and he's still trying to kick my ass. I mean, dude, there's just some people that are just like that, and it's nothing personal. He'll take me out to eat after that, and I love you, brother, and blah blah blah. But and I've been. I don't even want to say I've been. Where people have pointed out that I'm the same way, because you know what, I friggin' am the same way. I'll tell you right now. There was a time, and now it's funny because I'm a little bit older, and I'm reminding myself, and I'm 47 and I'm thinking, man, there ain't much more time before these young bucks are going to remember all the licks and bruises that I hit them up with. And now they can hit me.
Yep.
And they're like, it's paybacks a B. I'm telling you, paybacks a B. So I've been telling them, man, I said, listen, guys, I said, I've been taking it easy on you guys because I don't want you guys to get reminded and try to kick my butt when I'm like a senior citizen. All right. So it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to get beat up. It doesn't feel good to beat up a senior citizen. So, I mean, I'm not there yet, but yeah, I I come up from that old school mentality, and that's the way I train. So I never take it personal.
Right.
And but I can see how people can take it personal. You know, I
Yeah.
can see how
Yeah.
people can let it get to them, and that's what it's meant to do. I mean, some
Right.
of these guys, that's part of their tactic. They want to rattle you. They want to get you off your game plan, have you come at them harder, come at them without any thought process. That way, you're just running into more shit. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. So Mike, let's see, a couple other just quick topics. So there's we're in this sport that's sport. We call it sport karate, but sport martial arts, and it's really open martial arts, right? Which is a weird thing. It's like, but sometimes we kind of exclude without really meaning to exclude certain styles, right? We don't see as much of Taekwondo as we maybe think, we should. Right now, I know this year there's a big thing, and I know several different ones. The AAU officially has point sparring now in its circuit. So I guess that happened last year, where it was an official sport. So now they have really pushed. They have a national team that they're going to take to these events. They're going to start out at AKAs. I've been working with some of the guys too on the East Coast area. What do you think about that? As far as that, they're focused on point fighting right now. Okay, I think they're just trying to get their feet wet and go to these events, so that way they could keep going and then bring that over to the AAU world, and then eventually, maybe try to get some crossbreeding going there. So,
now the AAU style of fighting, is that the one that looks kind of like the old school fighting, where they're like the little chops and stuff, and they wear like the full
this
gis?
is Taekwondo though. This is
Okay, Taekwondo. I
okay.
apologize.
Yeah. So it's AAU is a little different than like World Taekwondo, where you see the Olympic, or ITF. It's kind of, it has all of those combined.
It's basically point fighting.
Right, but they have a point fighting style, but they also do the Olympic style.
Well, but that's
and they also do the ITF style. So they have all the different styles in AAU Taekwondo. So
when you guys had Arlene Lemus, though, it sounded like Taekwondo for them has been changing. It's been been called more like point sparring. Am I wrong? Like, I remember before
they're using the front leg,
you'd have to stop people. Most of it was rear leg, and it was like someone would have to come and you'd have to like stop their motion or drive them back. Where now, like you said, I see a lot of guys doing a lot of lead leg. It's not a lot of that crisscross, pop, pop, pop. I mean, you do see a few people put the combos together, but no, hey, dude, it's a great thing. I mean, I used to always cross train when I was younger. I think a lot of these guys that do cross train, you tend to see the development a lot faster, just because you deal with a lot of different situations and you have to handle on how would I deal with this? How would I deal with that? I don't normally deal with that. And I think that's great for the brain. I mean, I think it's great for competitors. I love to see people cross over. I love to see these events where, you could get anything that could push the sport, make it bigger. I'm all for it. I don't see nothing wrong with it. I mean, I would love to see it.
I think it's going to be cool. A good way for them to get going. I know Martin Amba out there in Nevada is one of the coaches as well. So they didn't just take guys that just do the AAU. They took guys that are coaches or compete in sport karate to be the coaches for it. So
how about forms divisions? Do you think they've gotten so many forms divisions now that they could maybe consolidate some of the stuff? I mean,
Jeff and I have been mentioning that for a while.
And I mean, don't get me wrong, it's hard because you don't want to exclude anybody, and you don't want to put somebody in the wrong group. Because I mean, the soft style, hard style, you got all these, you got the Kempo. Well, what about the Shotokan or the? I mean, but at the same time, I feel like there's so many divisions. I think slimming things down, having a better product would be,
Yeah, Mike, it's really hard because, again, like in martial arts, like we're already split just in what we do. You know what I mean? Because there's so many different styles, and then every style has its own circuit. You know what I mean? Like there's a traditional Shotokan circuit. There's the traditional this. There's a traditional Taekwondo, and then you have 7 different styles of Taekwondo that have their own circuit. And then you have ones that try to bring it together. So it is tough, you know.
Yeah. Or how about the
Um,
fact that European, you go over there and it's like the fighting divisions, how it's like almost inverted from like there's so many fighting divisions and so little forms divisions. And now
right,
I've
right,
seen forms kind of build, but
yeah.
it's like it seems like it was like that here and now it's kind of flip-flopped. Do you think it's because um do you think it's because people are trying to get into movies that are doing this stuff? You think people are trying to do like
No,
more stunts? You think
nope.
that's why? You think
I will
people
tell you
don't?
how.
You
I
think
will
people
tell you why.
don't want to get hit? They don't want to mess up their face. Like,
No,
Mm,
why
it's
do you
not
think?
that
no, I don't
either.
think
It's not
no.
that either. So it has to do with um what's what's the more bang for your buck. I have I had a couple students that really had no particular um motivation to do forms, right? These specific students, but when they would go to a tournament as a teenager, and when they go to a NASCAR tournament, they really can only do one division
One division, yeah.
because sometimes there just is no continuous fighting, just isn't, right? Which for fighting is it's like a whole nother world, right? It's not like doing CMX and then
Did
extreme,
we
which are
lose him again?
basically the same thing. That needs to be consolidated like 10
Right.
years ago, right? But um, so there's nothing for them to do. So, Mike, let's say you and your wife, you bring your son and he wants to go compete, right? And he wants to go to the battle, right? And he wants to go.
Go ahead. Come on, Alex.
It's
Froze up.
frozen.
Oh
You know
man.
what? Hey, you know what?
But
Here's a good point that he's making, and now I'm going to
yeah,
say it. How many guys have talked about, and I've been hearing that they don't let these 40-year-old
here we
plus
go. Yeah,
come down and fight a 30-year-old division.
yeah.
Alex, we were just saying how I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that's another thing that I think these promoters need to think about is if you got guys that can do 3, 4, 5 form divisions, right? Why don't they open it up for fighting just
For
like they do
fighting.
in
Yeah,
Europe? Those
yep,
guys have big events. They have crazy numbers of people competing, and they still get it done.
yep.
And I think we run events way better. I don't see why they don't allow people to do a
Yeah,
couple
some
divisions.
yeah, a couple more divisions. You know, like the battle of this past year, they had different styles of it. They did a double elimination division. They did, you know, duos. What do you call it? Like two-person fighting. They did tag team sparring. You know, there's different things for everybody to do. So I definitely think that is something I know. To me, that was something that I always looked at for my event was to have options for fighters. You know, we had the continuous fighting. We did the open weight fighting. We did the open weight for the juniors. We did the team fighting. We did the mixed team fighting. You know, just whatever you could do, you know, to make it different, you know. So yeah, but definitely think there needs to be a little bit of, yeah, just reviewing instead of always trying to expand, like look at how we can kind of make
Yeah.
things cleaner, you know, clean
And I
things up.
understand, it's going to be busier, but you know what? I remember Charlie Lee one time. He raised prices and he said, "You know what? I had less competitors this year, but I made more money."
Right,
So sometimes I think streamlining isn't a bad idea. You know what I
right.
mean? And yeah, you'll make a little bit more money because now you have more registration for more events. And yeah, maybe you'll get less people, but I think at the same time, over time, if you have a great event, everything goes well, that'll build. But
Yeah,
yeah, I know I agree. If you like you said, if people are going to spend, not even talking about competitor fees, but airfare, hotel,
right.
I mean, you definitely want to go over there and have as many
Do more
chances as
than
you
one.
can. Yeah,
Right.
and just go for it. No,
Exactly.
I agree, and I think that's something that a promoter needs to listen to. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Those I've heard it over and over, time again. That's one of them. The timing of when their events are on, and also the 2 point sidekick. Are you guys on board for the 2 point sidekick? Or are you guys cool with it? I don't care either way,
What are
but
you
I
on
mean,
board for? What's your take on that?
I'm a puncher. I don't mind kicking, and I'll side kick people to death. And I'm going to be honest with you. I almost feel like when I've fought people that are rushing me and they've run into two sidekicks, it really gets easy for me. I feel like, that was easy. But granted, I had to land the 2 side kicks, but I'm saying now having a 4-point deficit is just so much easier to handle that fight than if I was to counter body and only get 2 points. I run into a side kick and I'm back to tie. You know what I mean? So
Right.
strategy wise, it's totally different. It just makes me approach the fight different. I don't care either way. But if I did have a preference, I would say I'd like the 1-point side kick, 2-point kick to the face.
Yeah.
But then how's this? I would say this. I like the 2-point side kick if I put a nice combo on you and I can get 2 points like I used to do for the Atomics Challenge.
Yeah.
Like if I throw a
that's
back
right.
fist
Yeah.
body, and I mean, I'm not talking about hit, chase someone, pop. I'm talking about if it's a
1, 2, 3. Yeah. Yeah.
pop. A nice combo. They both land. I think that should be a 2-point then.
That was,
If you get a
man,
2-point kick.
That's something we hadn't brought up in a while is that Atomics Challenge and how they did that, of I remember the rules for that of, not only like they were trying to score combos, and I think the max you could do was 3 probably mostly, right? I mean,
and cleaner points. They wanted cleaner points because if you fell and everything was, if it was sloppy open hand, they would say no, hand open or this, that.
Right.
They wouldn't let anything happen. So, but yeah, I think little things like that, man. I think little changes like that, because that also, like you said, promotes it to look more like not necessarily a continuous fight, but it'll force people to throw the combos and to keep it going. And again, you're risking the same thing. You're risking a 2-point punch for the 2-point kick. It just seems a lot more like, you know what I mean? A little bit more even for me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and the thing is,
2-point kick to the body, I think should stay. Absolutely.
But how about a back fist body? If I hit you with a 2-piece, you think that should be a 2-point punch, or you think that's it's just going to be continuous by doing that?
All these things sound great in a perfect world, but how is it actually going to be played out? It's going to be played out just like you talked about with Brian Ruth. That's what's really going to happen. And then all of those will end up being the score. So now where you ended up landing the side kick to the body, and then this guy, after they say stop, comes in 1-2, he's getting 2 points for punching you late because of what he's influencing, where you did the way harder technique and you got nothing.
Yeah. No, you know what? I'm also a believer in good balance. Like if you threw a solid side kick and you fall, I love that. I love the Walker
never be able
rules.
to score with anything.
I love the Walker rules where they go boom and then they'll go like this because you fell down. Because you fell down. I mean, it's almost like an avoiding to fight and throwing your leg out there and someone ran into it. I don't like that
never
either.
get points if you fall.
Right.
And I agree with also the same that if you throw a side kick and I stuff it, or if I run through it and it didn't stop me and I punched you, I feel the punch should be the point, or at least the clash. At least the clash or nothing, you know what I mean? But I feel like if you kick me and it doesn't stop my motion, you didn't have your legs stuck out and it didn't stop me. And I don't mean like you kick me and I stop for a second and then I continue and punch it. No. I'm talking about if I come in and there's a kick, but my motion never stops and I hit you, I feel that person with a punch should get the point every time.
Yeah.
If they punched you.
For body kicks, yeah. For body kicks, right? Yeah.
And I see
that description makes sense. And for those who can't see the actual hand motion that you just described, like if you're listening to this, you're not watching it live. What Mike was just describing was perfect because he was talking about a straight side kick, but a body that's on an angle and the kick slips. Yes, that makes sense.
Right.
What happens, and I do not like this argument where people say, oh, but it wasn't a fully extended side kick. But we don't call fully, but we call not fully extended back fists. We call not fully extended punches all the time. So I don't understand the double standard. Why we don't want to call a not fully extended side kick because it stops a person, because we have a human person that's running at you, and then you throw your side kick, it hits hard, but it doesn't fully extend. The exact same thing happens with a body punch. The body punch doesn't fully extend. I don't know why that's okay, but the side kick's not okay. Which one's the more difficult technique? The side kick. That's why late in matches, you don't see kicks coming up. You see punches over and over on both sides because they're tired, right? So the more difficult technique is the kick. If we go away from that, people will just stop kicking. they'll stop kicking altogether, right?
Well, I mean, we see that in Europe.
Well, we see that in Europe, but then here's the other thing. If you de-incentivize someone to kick, they'll stop doing it. We watched it happen in forums. We de-incentivized people to do standing kicks.
Do standing kicks, yeah.
Now, there's nobody who does it. There is absolutely nobody who does any kind of creative or extreme forms who does any standing kicks, right? You de-incentivize them to do it. Now they're not going to. You'll do the same thing will happen in fighting, only it will be worse. There was times where it would toy with me on like, wow, they're judging everything completely fair, right? I feel like this looks like, yeah, maybe we should just go 1 point kick to the body, right? But there's certain towns where you go in and it don't matter what it was, what you did with your side kick to the body, which, let's be honest, it's the only kick that culturally we say is acceptable to score to the body. When was the last time anybody, or when was the first time anybody ever saw a round kick getting scored to the body, right? Nobody sees that. Nobody sees a round kick to the chest score.
Do we really think that? Do we really think that the 2-point body kick is keeping people away from events? I don't think it's keeping people away.
I don't think it's keeping people away from events.
No.
Like I said, I don't mind the 2-point kicks. I've dealt with it all my life. And you just come in tactically different. That's all. And the 2-point kick is good for me too. Shit, I use the side kick. I don't know how many times, fadeaway back kick. I do it right back on people all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm fine with it. I'm just saying that, nothing. Don't make a mistake. I'll leave.
I like the NBL rules when it was 1 point body kicks, but if you did a spin kick to the body, it was 2. If you did a spin to the head, it was 3.
I'm really glad you said that.
Because I like the extra, because I don't like that if I do a spin kick to the body, it's the same as if I did a regular kick to the, you know what I mean?
Jeff, you're right on. Because they de-incentivized us to even try to spin. There's not worth anything more. Right.
And so now it's a 3 point to the head
anymore.
Right.
If I spin, but even if I spin and hook kick someone in the head, I'm still getting 2. I'm not getting 3. All right. I have to jump, spin, and kick someone in the head. Right. I have to do literally the hardest move to get an extra point, right? To get that one. Whereas if you want to get an extra point, you could jump and kick someone in the body and get 2. You can jump and spin and kick somebody in the body and get an extra point. But they de-incentivized us to do it. Nobody spins now. Nobody does.
Yeah. No,
because the risk or the reward.
Alex, hold on. Mike Bates was just saying, didn't Elijah say that the 2-point kick kept a lot of Europeans away? No, he said that the 1 round actually keeps a lot of people away.
1 round is actually what does more of it.
Yeah, to where they come in, they fly all the way there, and they only get 1 2-minute fight.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's funny too. As a fighter, that's very tactically different. When I went over to Waco, not fighting 2 rounds and being used to trying to score where you can, there was a time when NASCAR did 1st to 5. There was a time where if you win by a spread,
a 5-point spread. Yeah.
So it just seems like, the one thing when I went to Europe, they fight a lot more tactical, knowing they have 2 rounds. They don't try to, blow it all out in 1 round, because then they have that second round to think about. And, that's the one thing that I definitely, I didn't like about it at first, but then I appreciate it, because usually what you don't like is what you need to be working on. Yeah. And I felt like, tactically it made me approach the fight a lot different, rather than just trying to go out there and annihilate and do this, do that, because you can't always do that. You got to change it up sometimes. Sometimes you got to. So that's the one thing I definitely enjoyed about going over there, is it made you have to fight different, and it made me a better fighter. Awesome. And I like the 2 rounds. I have no problem with 2 rounds either. That's great.
Would you rather have 2 rounds or double elimination?
Wow, that's a good question, because it's 2 totally different things.
It is.
But you know what? I'm a guy that believes like I came to win, and couldn't feel good about myself in a double elimination, knowing I lost earlier if I won grand. So I'm going to say to myself, me personally, I probably would rather have the 2 rounds, because if I effed up in the first round, I got a whole other round to figure it out. And if I didn't, then the better guy won.
Right.
That's it.
Awesome. All right, Mike. So we got to cut out. But thank you so much for joining us again. We had an awesome time talking with you. Guys, go, if you haven't registered yet, go to the Arctic Challenge. Go to Matt Action Arctic Challenge, I think, / Arctic Challenge, I believe is the site. Or you can go to Matt Action and find it. And check us out Saturday. Also, they have Bailey Murphy on Friday doing the seminar. So if you are even in the area, you better get out there and check it out. And thank you guys so much for joining us on Inside Scoop. Thanks, Mike P, for joining us today, man.
No, it was a pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys. And I think I was pretty mellow today.
Yeah.
Mike, when are people going to see you at a tournament again? You're going to be at any kind of capacity?
I don't know. Right now, I haven't really thought about it. You know, I went to Jack's tournament because I was like one of those guys. That's my boy. I got to be there.
Right.
I've been debating about going to compete. I don't know. Because, you know, like, because you're not allowed to fight down, right? I mean, I don't know if I feel, I don't feel manly fighting in the 40 plus, even though there's good competitors there. I take nothing away from the people there, but I don't know. Something in my mind just won't allow me to fight in my age group. I feel like I want to go.
I think you can fight one down, Mike. You can fight in the 30 plus.
Okay. You know, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it. You know, I mean, I've been thinking about it. That's all I'll say. I just, you know, I haven't done it right now because, you know, there's really no purpose, reason, rhyme. You know, if I do it, it's just to do it for the fun of it. You know, but like I said, right now, just the way things have been, I haven't really thought about it. But, you know, I don't object to it. I've had a few people try to get me to do, or I should say, Jesse, he tried to get me to do the VFT.
I was just going to mention that one.
Once or twice, and you know, I'm just, you know, I don't know. I kind of, I'm into it, but it's got to be the right reason, and you know, like I said, so I don't know. We'll see.
We'll keep praying.
We'll see.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. Didn't you have people coming after you? You had a bunch of people coming after you, man, calling you out week after week. They finally left you alone. They finally said, you know what, it's over. You're retired. Because I remember a whole bunch of people were calling you out over and over.
Yep.
Yeah. Yoskar was one of them.
Oh, man.
I hear you, man. You know, it's tough getting back because once you've been kind of like in a certain position, it's like, what am I really going back there for? What am I trying to prove? And it's like, if the only thing I can think of is I would go out there just to have fun and be out there with my fellow competitors, and that's it, you know. So it's not like it would like it was before, where before I was out there, I was trying to be the top guy, trying to dominate. I'm 47. I know I have no chance of being the top guy. I know I could be one of, you know, the better fighters there, but you know, ultimately I'm a realist, and I know when it comes down to grand, some of these young, hungry lions, man, they're tough. You know, they're tough. So.
That's fantastic. Awesome. It's going to happen. Look out. Mike B's coming back in some way, shape, or form. It's coming. He did not say no. He said yes, but just not now. All right, guys. This has been another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. See you guys next week.